Hey there, Regina Andler here, and it is time for Tips and Tricks Tuesday. This week, I want to talk a little bit about creating headlines that convert. Now, what do I mean by convert? I mean that they actually get eyeballs on them with people who are engaged and want to read what comes after your headline. So, when you think about your headline, understand that your headline is the most important piece of copy in your content. That first line is what is going to get people to actually stop and want to read more. So if your headline isn't clear, then people are just going to move on to the next thing. Remember, there's just so much information coming in all day long. Think about it, all the things that you pass by all day long. What actually makes you stop and consider reading more when you see an article or a blog or even a Facebook post or an email that comes in? What is it that makes you stop and look at it? Chances are pretty good it's the headline. That is where your magic happens, that you engage with people. So I want to give you some tips today on how to create those headlines that get the eyeballs on them. So the first thing to think about is to be clear on who your audience is. Do you really know who you're talking to? If you try to speak to everyone, chances are pretty good your headline's going to be a little bit too broad and you're not going to get the eyeballs on it because people are just going to pass it by. It's going to be too general. You don't want to be too general in your headline. So when you're clear on who your audience is, you're clear on your target audience, your ideal client avatar, when you're clear on that information, you can write much more engaging headlines. That's number one. The second one is to use the right combination of words. Now, there's a key to the combination of words. One is to use uncommon words. Now, uncommon words are like actually, awesome, right, as in R-I-G-H-T. It's basically they're words that are unique enough to grab your audience's attention. That's what those uncommon words in a headline do. The second type of word that you want in your headline are the emotional or the trigger words. Those are words that they basically encourage an emotional reaction in the reader. And they could be stuff like absolutely, important, successful. Those are types of emotional words. The third type of word you want to have in your headline is a power word. You want at least one power word in your headline. And a power word it's a strong word that really gets people to notice. It may be something like ability, even laugh. The word laugh is a power word. Accept. Now, the combinations of words again. So the first one is uncommon. That should be about 10 to 20% of your headline. The emotional or trigger words should be about 10 to 15% of your headline. And those power words should be about 20% of your headline. And when you put them all together, that's what makes a headline that's going to stop people in their tracks and have them pay attention to you. So the next tip that I have, we're going to move on to tip number 3. We're actually going to go back a little bit in a minute. Tip number 3 is the reading level. A while back, a few years back, they did studies and they said the average adult has a reading level of an 8th grader. I am sad to say, folks, that now the average reading level is a 5th grade reading level. While it's a little sad to say, it is good information to know. You want to make sure that your headline is at a reading level that more people will engage and understand. So just be cognizant of the words that you're using. Don't use overly complicated words in your headline. Otherwise, you start going up in the reading level, and that actually brings your audience down. So that's the reading level. The next one is the number of words that you have in your headline. Now, for the number of words, they say 12 or less is kind of the key. You don't want too long of a headline. You don't want too short of a headline either. So keep it in that 12 or less. It's kind of like the 10 to 12 is kind of like the sweet spot. The next one is the number of characters that you have. Now, you don't want to go over 70 characters. Over 70 characters, it's a little bit too long. The words are too big. You just have too much in there. If you have 12 words and you're at 70 characters, chances are you got some pretty big words in your headline. So you can go in and just play around with the words that you're using and just make them words that are more simple. We're going to call it more simple. So we're going for that 5th grade reading level, remember? So you want to keep the number of characters where the sweet spot for it is around 55. So you can 55, 70 max is where you want your character level. Now, the next thing is to keep it positive. I don't know if you've ever read a headline that had one of the negative connotations to it. It used the negative emotions. For most people, when you use those negative words, the first thing they want to do is move as far away as possible from it. So you want to use positive words. Positive words are more engaging to the audiences in general. If you use positive words, you're going to get more eyeballs on your content. And then last but not least is your SEO terms. So when you think about your rankings with searches and on Google and all out in the internet world, you want to make sure it kind of all ties into your SEO rankings. So you want to be clear on who your audience is, and you want to be clear in the headline. You don't want words in there that make the line confusing for people, right? The next thing is that character count. Too many characters kind of throws the SEO off. The next thing is not too many keywords. So if you use multiple keywords and multiple terms in your one headline, also that throws the SEO off. And be clear on what you're doing and use attention grabbing words. You want those words that maybe are what people are searching for. So if you go out and check and see what are people looking for with regards to my particular business or whatever your content is, what are people looking for? What are people searching for on that? And use the words that they're using. Those are those words that the SEO, the little bots that are out there that grab that stuff will pick up. And then last but not least, make sure that your headline and your content actually go together. There's nothing worse than writing a headline to get eyeballs on it, and your content really doesn't have a lot to do with it. And people do that all the time, believe it or not. People do that because they get the eyeballs on it, and they kind of fake people out and fake you into reading their content. And I know I've done it before. I've looked at a headline and went, wow, that sounds really cool. I want to check it out. I clicked on it. I get into the first 2-3 lines and I'm like, this is not what I thought I was reading. And so I click right back out of it. So you're not really engaging people if you kind of don't have the two of them together. So make sure they're consistent. Your content and your headline actually go together. So I want to go back one sec to the top of that list with being clear on who your audience is and those words that you're using. You see, I use a product, it's an app called Headline Analyzer by CoSchedule. I've talked about it before here, and I'm a big fan. Why am I a big fan? Because it rates your headline based on all of these factors. So I wrote up a headline that I'm going to read to you, and I'm going to tell you what's wrong with it, and then I'm going to fix it. So the headline that I wrote was, learn how to move from overwhelmed to overjoyed to create a successful business. Doesn't sound too bad, right? And according to Headline Analyzer, it gets a score of a 75. Anything 70 or over is green on CoSchedule, on Headline Analyzer, meaning that it's good. However, think about a 75 as. A 75 is, well, a C, if you're looking at grades. So a 75 is a C. So it's okay. It's average. And here's why. So I have 13 words in there. So the Headline Analyzer is saying, you might want a couple less words in there. The next thing is that I have 79 characters in it. And what did I say about the characters? 55, 70 max. So I'm losing points because I have just a few too many characters in it. The type of the headline is how to, which is actually a good thing. So it's how to. It starts off with learn how to move. And when you use those types of headlines, how to automatically engages your audience. The next thing is, though, I'm at a 9th grade reading level. And with the 9th grade reading level, I'm going to probably block out a lot of the audience that I actually want to attract. So here's what I did. Changed it up just a little bit. And I changed it to 5 ways to move from overwhelmed to overjoyed to create a successful business. Now remember, that first one was a 75. I just jumped 10 points to an 85, all by changing just the first part of that headline. And I could go on and change it further to increase it even more. I don't think I've ever seen 100 on any headline. However, I do have a lot that have been in the 90s. And so you want to just be aware. And this is what I love about the headline analyzer is that you can go out and you can play with it and you can mix up words and you can change things around. And it shows you what words are working in there. So now I'm still at a 13 word count, which is why I'm at an 85 and I'm not up in the 90s because I'm still over my 12 area where I want to be really good. I also have 77 characters. So my character count is still a little bit high in there. However, I now have a list headline, and list headlines get much more action. Have you ever looked at something and said, hey, the 3 best ways to do this, or hey, 10 tips on how to do this? That automatically engages the brain to want to know more. And so lists are actually really good headlines. I'm still in a 9th grade reading level though. So here's the thing that I did. So I have in this little sentence that says 5 ways to move from overwhelmed to overjoyed to create a successful business. I have, let's see, I've got one uncommon word, which is ways. And then I have one emotional word, which is successful. And I happen to have 2 power words, which are move and overjoyed. So as you can see, just playing around with your headlines, you may have some existing content out there. It might be an article, it might be a blog, it might be a Facebook post that you're going, why isn't anybody clicking on this? It's really good stuff. Just changing up your headline can make all the difference. So if you go out there, it's called the Headline Analyzer. Just go out to Google and search CoSchedule Headline Analyzer, and you will find this app. You can use the free version. I use the free version right now, and it is amazing because it also helps you with all of these little pieces so that you can understand how to create the headline that will most attract, most interrupt, and engage the readers in your audience. So that's what I've got for you today is to create headlines that convert. And we'll see you next week. Bye for now.